All right, we are live. Welcome back to the second episode of Chat with the Optimists. So happy, what's today? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday, dudes. Today, on this second official episode of Chat with the Optimists, I am going to be doing my first free tech workshop. So, what a free tech workshop is I'm going to show you a piece of software or a website or any kind of tool that can help you out that is free to use. So you don't have to pay any kind of package or subscription, or have to you won't be charged at all for using these services. And plus, I try to pick things that are easy to use. So today we are going to be using Pixlr, which I've been using this for a couple of years now, which this and the following episodes are going to be Photoshop alternatives. And what that means is that Photoshop is an Adobe software that you can edit images, you can crop them, draw on them, um, create filters, make special effects. So that's like the industry standard for photo editing. But of course, you have to pay for the subscription, or you can pirate it. But we're doing everything completely legal here. So there are other alternatives. And one of them I found is a website called Pixlr. So let me just share my screen. Let me pull this up. Present. And we're going to do screen. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, great. I just have to look over on my other screen here. Can I move this? Bump this up here so we get in like the corner. Update. Okay, great. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, so this is Pixlr. So you see it's a photo editor. So what I'm going to be doing with these softwares, I'm just going to go through them, test some things out, because I'm learning just as much as you are. But in this case, I'm not learning so much because I've used Pixlr. I use Pixlr quite often, but I'm going to show you guys just from someone who've used these kinds of software before as an artist. I'm going to give you a little demo about what kind of features this has. I'll give you my opinion and what kind of stuff you can do with it. And my thoughts as well as like what are some pros, what are some cons here. So first thing with Pixlr, you'll probably notice is on the bottom, there's these 5 squares indicating there's actually 5 different pages. Now, I have actually not used them all. I mostly just use Pixlr editor. So right here, the OpenAI photo editor. So we're going to do that today. If we have more time, I might go into the other ones, but let's go in here. And right here in our square, we have 2 options. One, we can open an image that we already have on the computer. We can generate an image. We can create a brand new template, or we can use some old ones. So like you see, I have a couple things down here. So for now, we're just going to do a create new, just to get a blank canvas, just so I can show you guys the tools. And now once you click this, you'll have a screen picking your dimensions, so how large the image is. So for example, if we want to create a YouTube thumbnail, we have right here, thumb 720p, which is YouTube standard size for a thumbnail. So what's great about this is it already has a lot of preset file formats or canvas formats. Because before, I know with Photoshop, you would have to look up everything, and they even have it separated by category. So this is for photographs, social media. So we had great Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. Websites, this could be good for posting on, they have the years here for what I'm guessing is what would be standard for a website. So you probably do 2020, because 10, 20 years ago, you had to choose smaller images because how the websites work, they couldn't handle that large images. And then printing, I imagine you won't do. And then video, which is interesting. I guess it's for like assets for video. So like if you say in this live stream, I want to put up something that's uh, something that fills the entire HD screen, I'll choose like 1080p. But for now, we're just going to do, I want something wide. So let's just actually go to print and let's just do a thumbnail. So if you see on the right here, we have a couple options. We can name or whatever it is. So I'm going to call this demo. And we can actually do custom width and height of our canvas. So every time we change this, the width and the height changes. And I'm hoping you guys can see my mouse. Or you can enter something manually. So this means a width that it's going to be wider. It's going to be wider than it is taller. And then finally, our background is if you want a default background on. So, so if you know you want to have like a white background, like definitely, then this could be a good thing to do. Whoops, why? Here we go. So you can pick whatever color you want, but I usually don't because I haven't found a way to actually get rid of it once you make a file. But I'm going to show you what happens if you don't have a background. So let's create our canvas. There we go. So the first thing you'll notice on this website, unfortunately, there's ads. They're squared away to the right of the screen. So it's not that bad. It's not like it's covering up the screen or coming up in pop-up windows. So it's not terrible. So I'm fine with it. Hasn't bothered me compared to some other software I've used. But you see in our canvas here, we have this checkerboard, grayed out checkerboard on the screen, which means it's transparent, our canvas. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you all this in a bit. But for now, let's just draw. Whoops. I'm going to get out a... No, I'm not going to jump into that yet. So this is pretty much our canvas here. So if we were to save this and we were to say, put this, we were to put this on a website, you're going to see through the image. You're not going to see anything because there's nothing here. And you'll see that in a little bit. The first thing I want to show you about Pixlr is the layer system. So we come to the right where the ads are. We have these layers here. And what layers are is, think of it like, I like to think of it like a sandwich. So the top of the, this is the top layer right here. So this is going to be in front of everything below it. So think of this as like the top bun. And if we were to cut a hole in the bun, we can see through this layer. So I'm going to give you an example here in a little bit how these layers work. But no, anytime you draw or anytime you do anything on the canvas, you have to have a layer selected. So the first thing I'm going to do is, we come to the left here, we have our toolbar. And now this could be a lot of stuff, which if you ever use Photoshop, it really isn't. But if you never use a software like this, it can seem like a lot. But the first thing we're going to go over to is drawing, which is this little paintbrush here. And we got this little simple menu. So this is like Microsoft Paint, or you have this like on your phone photo editor where you can pretty much draw on the screen. So right now we have this selected as the brush, the color white, and this is the size. So if we click and drag, we have it like this. We can draw around it. So within the paintbrush, we can change the color, and we got plenty of colors here. If you don't know how this kind of color section works, this will decide the tint and the shade. So this is going to be full on red right here in this corner. But if you slide horizontally, it adds more white to it. So we actually get like a pink here in all the ways to the white. And opposite the other way, if we go vertically, we add more and more black to it. So we get a maroon and all the way to black. And of course, you can go diagonally throughout here to add both black and white. So this is more like grayish red here. And then down here is the hue, so which would be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. So we can change that. So you have a lot of options. And what's cool is, say, let's draw in yellow. I'm going to go all the way yellow. We can either click enter and I'll get rid of it, or we can click off. And if we go back to it, we can save it. So if I want white, I can click down here, but it also saves the yellow. And it'll save up to whatever this is. I think 11. So let's draw some yellow. Yeah. Now let's say I have a color here and I end up losing this green, or I have an image and I want to find out what color something is. Like I find a YouTube, I find like a YouTube thumbnail and I'm like, wow, that's a really nice shade of blue or whatever. Or I like this piece of art and I want to replicate it. You can bring it into Pixlr and then use this little eyedropper tool, or use this little eyedropper tool to take that color, so that green or that yellow, and automatically read that color. So that's very useful getting exact colors. You don't have to like eyeball it. And then lastly, in the color, you can pick your hex, which is like the exact code for the color. So if we move across here, every color or every type of color has a hue, which is like, I think, billions of them. There's a specific code, and this is very important for branding. If you want to, I'm just going to delete this. I wish I had to do that in a little bit. But say my specific color is like I have say this is my very specific green that I use. And then I also, part of my brand, I use an orange, like say this type of orange. And I also use a darker green. Like say these are my brand colors and I want them across my whole platform, all my websites, all my landing pages, all my social media. It's very important to keep professionally. Like you want to keep everything very consistent and using exact colors. Like for example, let me go off screen for a second. Let me put something up. Guidelines. This one I saw a couple weeks ago, which is pretty good. Like for example, let me change my screen share. Here we go. So we see here for Spotify, the company Spotify, they have exact colors. More specifically, their green is exact, and they use that for all their material. The Spotify green was chosen for a specific reason and have to be used across all their brands. So we see here, like, for example, they have a lot of rules. So like when they want their logo or presented places, they have rules about what not to do. For example, do not use the old stacked version, which I guess was an older version of their logo. Do not add gradient. Don't rotate the image. Don't change the color. Do not resolve the logo into two different colors, so like the black text and the green logo. Don't distort it by making it narrower, or change the font, or removing the icon. Now, they have a lot of specific rules, and they want to keep that brand consistency. Now, to someone who is new to this, they might find this very trivial, like what does it matter? But the importance of brand, the number one trait of branding is consistency, because you want your audience to associate you and your product and your whole business with certain words or feelings or emotions. So when you see the Spotify logo, even though you might not be able to articulate it, it signifies something, that whatever the circle is and these little lines that represent waves and the font that Spotify is, that it represents something. It might represent good quality music to you, or something that's casual or informal. So let me go back to the Pixlr. Here we go. So it's very important to record your colors and your brand consistency. So this is why we have all these exact tools. Now back to Pixlr. So now you pick your color. We have some brush options. For example, you can change the size, how big you want your brush. You have the softness, which means the edge. So let me go back. So the size here, I'm going to do 0 softness. And if I draw, the edges of our line are very rigid. So it just goes green, then to the black canvas. Now, if we go soft, and let's increase the size a little bit, you see it's like very, very soft. It's almost like a light coming out. So these are cool tools to use if you want, say, don't want to have such hard edges, or you do. And then finally, transparency, which means how well you can see, how opaque the line is. So for example, this is total transparency right here. This is going to be, let's say, half. So you can kind of see the checker marks underneath it. And if you go even lower, you can barely make out the line now. And 0, it's going to be nothing or almost nothing. So these are the line tools. And now what I've been doing is I've been getting rid of the line, and this is by using Control Z. You can also use this undo arrow down here. So that will get rid of all your progress. But if you accidentally click it and you're like, oh, I want that thing back, you can click redo on the bottom of the screen, and that will bring it back. So I'm going to use the hotkey, which is Control Z. That's probably going to be the only hotkey I use. That's pretty standard across all platforms, any kind of website or software you use. So I recommend you try it out too. But that's there for you in case you mess up. So anyway, back to, whoops, I accidentally got out of that. Let me just create a new one. Doesn't matter. We didn't do anything with it. So back to the little paintbrush here, we have a couple other tools like the eraser. So let me make some stuff. Go to the eraser. So, just erase the line. We have the softness to see how soft or hard we want the eraser to be. So we can slowly get it away or go really hard, just permanently delete it. And then transparency, you can kind of like make things like slowly disappear. Then we got the pen tool. I haven't really used this. So yeah, you can make tiny lines like this, make them larger. How large can you make them? Guess not that large. Mount. Okay. I'm not really seeing a difference there. Let's go into the mode. Parallel. Will you make parallel large with this? Oh, okay, that's cool. Let's undo everything. So we got, okay. What if we do like a lot of them? Oh man, okay, that's cool. We can make like sprinkles. Parallel, sketchy. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't used this, so I'm learning just as much as you guys. These tools probably aren't going to be useful. They really are, but you have them in your arsenal just in case, like you find something really interesting. Shaded, furry. Okay, trail, crayon. Okay, these are like kind of textures here in ink. So I imagine you won't be using these. They're more artist stuff. Like if you making a lot of gradients, but I don't see too much use for that. But it's there. If you have in your mind, it's there in case you run across a problem. Now the paint bucket, which is interesting, is you just fill the page whatever color you want. And this is how I usually make backgrounds by doing this because we can easily delete it. Now, I think I'm going to go back to this a little later. Actually, let me draw something here to see if it's working. Let's see if I can properly show you guys this. So with the paint bucket tool, you can fill in things. So let's do white. Now you see there's like a line here, and because this is kind of a soft stroke, it's not going to completely fill it. So we bump up the tolerance. Oops, that's a little too much, so it went too far. We can get more red into there. See, it's slowly being filled, and again, it's too much. There you go. Okay, so it's not fully, but we go into here, you fill up shapes or whatever, or colors. Like, say I want to change the color of that line to, like, say, blue. I can do that here. Opacity, let's see. Okay, that's cool. So it's like subtly changing the lines. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, you guys can probably figure that out. This kind of stream has been very simple because I understand some of you might have never used a software like this before. So I want to cover all bases. But I'll try to amp it up a little, which will go here. So we have two switches here, which is anti-alias and contagious. Now, anti-alias, I believe, is if we do this, one second. I think it's just contagious. Yes. So contagious, if we turn it off, it means that whatever color we select to fill, it will do that for every color in the page. Like, for example, if I do red here, it's going to change everything red to this green. So if you turn it on, it means it has to actually be touching for you to actually do it. So for example, if I make a little maze with their pen, I lower this, and I whoop, whoop, whoop. We're doing a little maze and a loop here and a loop here. We're going here. And we're gonna have a little tail. In and out. We're gonna have a circle here. And we're gonna close this up. Yeah, we're gonna have this little shape here. So why I'm doing this is if we have contagious on and we want to fill this up, this shape, if we click in here, it's going to fill up the whole shape because it's all the red in here is touching. But if we click it out here, this shape, obviously there's a hole here, so it's going to cover up everything. So if we turn off contagious, it'll just change everything, all the red in there. And if we combine this with the tolerance, like we can include all shades of red. For example, if I pick a color, like pick this red and maybe do a little bit darker and I color here, I bet you we can actually change that. So let me go pick an orange and let's try to fill it up. Yep, see, it covered up that red part here. But if we lower the tolerance, oh, still too much. There, it didn't select it because our tolerance was so low that it did not read this red as close enough as the background red. An anti-alias, what is that? Let me look it up quickly. A computer graphics technique that smooths jagged edges and okay. So it makes digital images appear more realistic by eliminating the staircase effect. So I think I know what's going on there. So let me just get rid of all this stuff. Let's draw. And I'm going to have, let's get a big pen. Oops, it's too big. So I think it's going to get rid of these little stumps here. So let's make this like yellow, turn off anti-alias. No. Okay, interesting. It is anti-alias bucket. Smooths the jagged edges of a selection by softening the color transition between the edge pixels and the background pixels. Okay, so let me make this soft. See if it'll work now. So we'll soften the edges here. And now fill it up with yellow. Okay, so that's with anti-alias. Let's turn it off. Yeah, I see it there. It's kind of the holes, I think. So we do that. And we turn on anti-alias. We got something smoother. Yeah, it kind of fills it up more. So that's good to have on. And the final thing we have, which I think this will actually be important, are shapes. So we can just draw squares, circle, triangle, star, heart, and line, which you can barely see. We can change the size of the line and the colors of everything. So we can also change, like, say with the square, we can change the fill of the square, and if it has an outline. So let's make this a gray square, and we want to have a white outline. Whoops, can we actually? We can, but I'm not going to do that yet. Let's have a white outline. So we're going to select outline, and we're going to open up the size a little bit. And there we go. We got our size there. Now, I wonder if there's a way, Pixlr to a square. I'm not sure how to do that, but yeah, you can kind of eyeball it what you want. In Photoshop, you can normally hold Shift and automatically like make this even. Not that. Am I showing on the screen? Yeah, yeah. Okay. All these are kind of similar. So that's enough with the paintbrush tool. Let's actually make some elements that will actually be interesting. So let's go into text. So here, unfortunately, Pixlr doesn't have a great option with text. And simple, and I think this is the strong suit of Pixlr, that it is, it's very easy to use and it's very straightforward. It's hard to get confusing here, but because of that, it is very straightforward and simple. That it doesn't have a lot of options. Like, for example, if you go to add new text, before we actually do that, let me show you more in the layers. So if you look to the right with our layers, we have one here, our white square. Now, I would recommend you make a new layer every time you add a new element. So we're going to click this plus sign, add layer, and it'll ask you what kind of layer do you want to make. Empty, which means there's nothing in it. We can put an image in, like upload an image, add a frame. I'm not sure what that is. Text or shape. Now, I usually don't do this because they don't give you, they just automatically put in there, but I usually like to make it through the toolbar. So let's click empty. Now we have a new layer. So we can move this white square and it'll be completely separate from what this layer is. So let's make new text. First thing we're going to do is change the colors so we can see it. And we're going to start typing. Actually, as Laura Ipsum is there, which is sample text. So we're going to call this my title. Now with my title, it gave it a name. You don't have to worry about the name itself. You can change the opacity here. You can transform it. Like so, for example, we can make it bigger. So make this 200. Or this is the position if you want to be really exact on the screen. I haven't really used that. And then rotation. And what is this? Delete or duplicate. Okay, so that's interesting. So I didn't know you can actually duplicate it in here, but you can change the text either on the screen or in this little box. And the important part, which is the font. So here, we don't have to highlight it all, but we can select it. Now, unfortunately, we don't have options. We don't have, we're not able to select all of the fonts because they're blocked behind their paywall, which is that little orange crown. But we can choose any of these normal ones that doesn't have the orange box next to it, which even though it isn't as much, like I said, as other software, it is still quite a bit. The only thing I don't like about Pixlr is that they have a lot of display fonts. So what that means is I'm going to pick a normal font, which is sans serif font, which is Arial. So right here, you probably use this in Microsoft Word. And sans serif means it doesn't have the little feet on the end of the letters. So I'm going to click and move this up here. Now I'm going to make another layer with text. I'm going to change the color to black. And I'm going to call this one, whoops, we have to do in the text box. We're going to call this display. Now display, we go to the font, is going to be stuff like this, or let's see, it's going to be like this. Stuff that, think of stuff that you'll see either in a magazine or a title or on a movie poster. That's display font. The stuff that's very alternative, very unusual. Meanwhile, the serif and sans serif fonts are stuff that you'll read in a book. So I'm just going to duplicate this text to give you an example. And I'm going to change this to a sans serif. So Georgia, for example. Here we go. So this is sans serif, or this is serif. It means it has the little feet. Like the F, you have the little has the little circle on top and has the the big line on the bottom. And then sans serif means they remove that. So these are what you usually read in long copy, like paragraphs, or if you go on Instagram, their font is San Francisco, so that's a sans serif font. It's a lot easier to read, but even though it's simple, it can be impactful, and you can use them very much for titles and large text. But display is definitely more interesting, but unfortunately, like, I think with brands, it's a good idea to be really limited with your font. Because the more fonts you start to involve within your brand, then the more chaos it comes. And it really takes a good designer to know what kind of fonts, having a wide range of fonts and be able to control that. Because otherwise, it'll look really sloppy and unprofessional. So I would really recommend, like, definitely choose one type of serif or sans serif font you want to be like your main text. and then maybe have a display font if you want to use it regularly. The side of with this is that, like, for example, Arial, you'll get it like this font here. Arial, you'll get it pretty much every website, every software will have Arial because it's such a standard font. Same thing with Verdana, maybe Georgia. Pixlr, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of the standard ones. So you'll be able to use that any kind of platform you go to. But these very obscure display fonts like let's see, Earth and Sky and Elliott or Empire View, those are very, like I said, a very obscure one. So they're probably going to be limited to Pixlr or other websites, whatever their exclusive stuff is. So try to avoid those. But the main lesson here is, whoops, let's change sans serif back to an actual sans serif. Bang. So I would definitely say stick with the normal fonts, sans serif and serif fonts. That's going to be your best bet. And making sure your brand looks okay. Again, it's not the most exciting, but it works. And the reason why it works is it worked for big businesses, so it's going to work for you. So what I want to do with this text, let me delete this. I'm just clicking on them with my mouse and hitting delete. That's how I'm doing that. So what else can we do with the text? We can change the size. Very easy. Line spacing. That is if we have multiple lines. So I'm going to click enter. Oops. Sans serif. Change the lines. We can separate these more, or we can put them together. So in the case where they start overlapping, we can actually create some space between them. Letter spacing is when you actually separate the letters, change the tracking of the text. So this is good, especially if you want to make titles. Like you can make something very tight, and this could look good for something if you want to create some kind of uncomfort or some kind of tension with your font. That's good. Or if you want some airiness, like you want to make a big statement, you can create more space between your letters. Then next we have a line, which if you use Microsoft Word, you know what this is. Be careful with justify. It can be a little weird. Then we have style, which is make it all uppercase, which is neat. This is very neat if you're using long copy here. You have like a bunch of sentences. Italics, bold, and underline. Now we have some other options, like if we want to curve the text, like let's actually make this longer. Oops, what did I do here? Sans serif font. And let me just go back to default letter spacing. Okay, so the curve here is that we can create some design patterns like up and down. We can make a circle, a spread. Ooh, that's pretty big. Flip or half spread. Okay, that's pretty cool. So these are very easy options if you're not a designer. If you're not a designer, these are very easy to play around with to make something cool. Warp. Oh, let's actually turn off curve first. So warp, we can change with the edges. That's pretty cool. Now, just because something's cool doesn't mean you have to use it there. You can go pretty balls to the wall with these and yeah, make something pretty weird stuff. I don't even know what this does. Vertical offset. Okay. Cool. Angular. Okay. Middle. Okay. Background. Okay, this is something if you want to background for your text. I imagine you won't use this. Punch out. Okay. So this is I guess with this one, I would say the cool thing with this is if you want to create something that you want to have your text be transparent, for example, if I turn off this background here, you can see the sans serif font is like invisible. So that's kind of cool. Like you have a pattern behind it. Now with the layers, how I did that was you have this little eyeball in the bottom right corner of them. You click that. Now you can see the layer. Well, let's go back to the font. Let's turn that off. And we have outline. Okay, this is handy. So this is if you want to have, let's make a red outline. Sure. An outline with your text. So this, if we have a white background, if we want white text, we can make like black. And there we go. We can have our stuff stand out. Create a distance. Oh, that's a little weird. Direction. Punch out. Oh, okay. This is cool. This is like if you just want the outline to be there, that's the punch out option. And lastly, with the text, we have the shadow. Oh, that's sick. Oh, this is actually really cool. We have a shadow here because it's white on white. But you can create a drop shadow. You can change the setting. Like you can make it very hard shadow or very soft. We can create distance. Like, is it really far away? Either to the point where you can't even see the text. That'd be cool. Direction. If we put a distance, we can change where the shadow is going. Then lastly, the opacity is how strong the shadow is. Like we can make it very subtle or very hard. Increase the blur, like that's weird. So that's text. Let me actually finish with the layers here. What else you can do with these layers? So if you click on a layer, you can click it either on the right or on the screen. And you'll know if you have the layer selected, if you have this little blue box surrounding it, the little blue outline. We have three options here. First, we have the little eyeball, which is if you want the layer to be visible or not. This does not delete it. All it does is hides it. So if I have, say, I have a new layer and I want to make a shape, and I want to put this shape, I'm going to move this shape up to the top. And now, like, I want to see my text bit, but I got this block in the way and I don't want to move it. We can just hide it, and there we go. And we can get it back. We can move the text, and perfect. So we, like I just did, you can also move the layers up and down. But back to the options. So we have the text button here, which tells you it's a text, and I think it'll automatically, no, it doesn't. It'll just let you know what kind of stuff, what kind of image is on it. So we have text in this layer. This, I don't know, it's just reading it as an image layer. And now finally, we have the three little dots, which is the settings. So this is the name, which doesn't really matter. The blend mode, which does some interesting stuff. Let me actually change this background to black. Or let's do gray so we can actually see our sans serif font. Open up the opacity. Wonder why it's not completely white. Turn off the shadow. No. That's interesting. It's not, it's kind of see-through here. Yeah. And do I not have something selected? Yeah, it's a little trippy here. No. Okay, I've never seen this happen before. To be completely honest. Did we change something accidentally? Like, yeah, it's very odd. Trying to figure out, like, let's just make a new text layer. So let's do new layer, text, and we'll do our title. Perfect. So now in the settings here, we can automatically change the opacity. Like we might have a lot of settings going on or multiple elements on the same level. So it's an easy way to change the opacity. The blend mode, which I don't completely understand all these, but these are easy ways to do some cool effects. I don't really use this. Oh, is it because I had the soft light on? The blend mode, I guess maybe that was it. But yeah, we can do that. Now down here we have locked and hidden. Hidden is just the same thing as the eyeball, like we can just automatically change it. Lock is very useful though. For example, if I have this layer or background here and I'm tired of like, I'm going to go click our text and I accidentally um, click the gray square and I move it, I'm like, oh, damn, I wanted it there. So the easy way to prevent that is by going into the layer settings and click locked so we can still see it, but we can't change it all. We can't alter the layer, even here. Very little looks like. But we can, and now it has that little lock symbol on it. And if we click that, it unlocks it so we can move it again. So this is a very good tool if you want to create something that, if you want to have an element and you know you want to keep it in one place, that's a very good tool there for you guys. And lastly, down here, we have the coupler options. Like if let me make two more shapes for this next option, or actually, yeah, two shapes. So I'm going to make a white square, and then on top of it, I'm going to create a red circle. So let's say I have the crudely made flag of Japan right here. Now, say I want to move it to the other side of the screen. I'm like, oh, whoops, I have to move it. This is kind of annoying to move. What we can do, if I know I am not going to edit either of those images again, like I'm perfectly happy how it is, we can merge them together and it'll just be one thing completely. And we can do that by going to layer settings, the top one, the top layer, and click merge down. And when we do that, it just makes them one layer, as you see right here, and we can move it together. Now we can't revert this, so you gotta be careful. So you might want to make it like a duplicate. But now we have this all together and we can resize it like this. So now it's easier to manage. There's also merge visible and merge flatten image. I never use flatten image, but okay. What's this doing now? Oh, I guess that just compressed everything together. Merge visible, don't click because that'll just merge everything together. And I don't think there's any instance you're going to want to do that. Then lastly, you can duplicate a layer. So now you have two of them. And then finally, you have the trash button. So that's how you manipulate some layers. Now, it's almost an hour. Wow. Okay. So let's speed up a little bit here. So this episodes 2 is going to be just an intro, very basics for anyone who doesn't understand these kind of software. I promise you guys the next episodes with like Photoshop alternatives are going to be more in-depth and more opinion-based. This is more becoming like a tutorial. So let's go in order of all these tools because we only did the text and the drawing. So first is the arrange. This is going to be your most used one. Like you can just do practical stuff with it, like change the opacity with your images, move it around, rotate. You can flip it like, oh, this is not going to really make much sense with the flag, but you can flip it horizontally, vertically. So that's the arrange, very simple. Next, you have the crop. Now, you can only crop the whole canvas. So if I want, say, a square, if I hold shift, let's see. No, you can't just crop one image. You have to crop the whole canvas. So be very careful with that. I've sneezed. Went away. So we have an option here to select ratio. Like, for example, we know we want a square. We have it right here. We can do widescreen, or we have a lot of presets we can do. Next is we can flip it, rotate the whole. Now this is the whole canvas. So again, be very careful with this because you can permanently alter your piece. Next, image size, canvas size. We can change how large our space is. So if you want to make this like 1280 by 1280, expand outwards. We have more space to play with here. Or we can shrink it. I'm looking at the chat mindfully, so if you guys say anything, I'll read it out. But our next thing we're going to want to do, or the next thing we'll look at is the cutout. Now, this one can get a little complicated, but it's pretty much if you want to remove an element, say of our Japanese flag here, we already did it. We have options. For example, we have 4 tools and 2 things to do with each. So the keep is if you, whatever you highlight, you're going to keep. So say if I just want this little red, if I do the little box here and I click, I only keep whatever I highlighted. Now, if I did remove, what do you think is going to happen? Bang, we just get rid of that. So that's the shape cutout, and we have different shapes. We can just do circle or all this stuff. There's softness, so you can have like a soft edge here, so it's not so hard. Invert cutout. What is this? Set. Okay. Now we have the magic cutout, which is kind of cool. So if we click here, it'll just get rid of everything that isn't the color we selected. Same thing with the remove. So we just get rid of all the white, and it's tolerance like the paint bucket. So we have super tone here, bang. We can turn off contiguous. So if we had other white, we can get rid of that too. That's not connected to this white. Draw cut is like the paintbrush, but it'll just highlight red and it'll delete wherever you put the paintbrush. Same thing with keeping stuff. And then finally, the lasso is like, imagine like, what's called the lasso is like, imagine you're herding like a cow. So the red is the cow. We can draw around it, and wherever we draw, it'll get rid of or it will keep whatever we have selected. So 4 tools for you guys. Interesting. There's an AI cutout. I'm not really going to go in AI today because I haven't used it. Whoa. It's just got rid of the white, and that's pretty good. That's interesting. Next is the effects. So let me actually import an image for this. So let me go in here. Let's take an image of Rocky here. Cool. Okay, so here, if we have this in our canvas, I just imported it. And let me move it down here. Perfect. So Japan and Rocky. So now let's go to adjust. So this is a cool, very quick way of changing some colors of your image. So let's select, do we have to do the whole thing? Okay, cool. It's just the layer. So whatever layer you have selected, it will change the color. So the first one I'll show you, I'm not going to go through them all because it's pretty complicated. But the most important ones first is saturation, is how colorful an image is. So if we lower the saturation all the way to nothing, it's only in black and white, just grayscale. But if we put up all the way, it's going to get very colorful, very bright neon colors. So this is a way I think usually you're going to be using this to put up the saturation a little bit because it made things more attention grabbing, the stronger colors, especially YouTube thumbnails. Same Vibrance does a similar thing, but a little bit more subtle. It doesn't just completely get rid of, say, the gray, or doesn't completely make it neon. So Vibrance is just a subtler version of the saturation. You can ignore these. Now the light brightness just makes the image darker or makes it brighter. This isn't very good. What's better is the exposure, because that's going to make things like, this almost looks like the image is at nighttime now. Or if you want something really bright, this is a better option for lights, for changing the lighting. Contrast is you just make things starker or just more grayed out. You'll be more using it in a higher contrast if you're going to be touching it. Next up, we have highlights and shadows. Like if you think an image is too bright, you can lower the highlights or increase the shadows. So this is a better way to kind of create more contrast. And then the last thing we'll go into is the details, where you can sharpen up an image better if it's a little blurry, or if the opposite, if you want to make something a little blurry, like a background. That's a pretty good idea. Or smooth option too, which doesn't have a big effect. So these are good for like a final touch for like an image that you're making, especially the saturation and the exposure. Very helpful tools. Next up, we have effects. I don't really use these. I haven't. It's just quick. These are pretty much quick ways of, instead of manually doing the adjustments, they have these like pre-made ones like nature. Yeah. Instagram or your phone has these. Now, what is this? Effect filters. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I have not touched these. Let's do glitch. See what that's like. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Glitch. Okay, that's interesting. I'm glad I'm doing this, because these can actually be helpful for some people. Yeah, I like that. Ooh, that is cool. That's definitely cool if like for like a digital brand or something. Let's do one more. Let's do. Oh, okay. I've done this before. This is like if you want to focus in your image. So I'm gonna click radial, move this here, shrink this a little, shrink this. Let's make Rocky the center. Whoops, did I get rid of that? Perfect. Perfect. And now soft blur. Oh, okay, that's cool. So now we have like blurring out the rest of the image, and now we got the little pup there is the focus. AI tools, I'm not going to get into that. Liquify isn't that useful. You can just do weird stuff. Not helpful. Retouch, though, that is interesting. So we actually go back with this image. If we with this tool, if we have like an error, for example, like if you have like if it's a picture of yourself and you have some kind of blemish, or you want to block out some kind of logo, say right here, this hat, like, oh, I don't want this logo in this hat for whatever reason. What we can do is get rid of it. Oops. It's only letting me click a little bit, but we can kind of remove it. How do I actually... Oh, here we go. By clicking object, kind of get rid of something. Yeah, it's a little hit or miss here, but yeah, you can kind of get rid of something. Just got to do a little bit retouching. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly, element is they have a couple elements here, just random assets. These aren't that useful. One thing I forgot to go into with the text is you can create some easy logo and brands. Like, for example, for the free tech workshop, I actually used this font here and I changed it around a little bit. So like, for example, I brought it into here and it made 4 layers for this. So they're all connected, but so let's go and change them. So I'm going to click V or the C. I'm just going to do what I did. So free tech workshop. Good workshop. And after that, I expanded it. So I think I unlinked them. I'm just going to click this little link chain button here to get, so we can alter them individually. So I pretty much just made them bigger. Done. Oops, didn't need to do that. We have to unlink them all. Hide all this stuff. Here we go. Tech, unlink. So yeah, I did something like this and just changed the color. What's cool about these is that we have options to gradients, which is like we can have 2 colors in here. There's some defaults. So like, let's do this. This is a pretty funky one. A lot of them. But if we just do a really basic one, like just 2 colors, we can change it ourselves by clicking the little arrow. So where this red is, we click it and our color box changes. So we can click that now and make it like, say, a blue. And then maybe we want the white to be like a black. It's kind of like black here. Enter. Whoops. My computer's freezing on me. Still got access to the stream though. Let's go back. Hopefully did I lose everything? No, good. It's still there. So that's good enough. So now let's wrap this up. So this is mostly all the tools. What's cool, what you just saw with Pixlr is that if you were to exit out of the website, it automatically saves your previous versions, previous projects. So you won't lose them like I just did. But to save them, what we can do, like, okay, I'm ready, like this is going to be my really bad thumbnail. We can go down to save, the save button, and it'll give us some options. Now, I would recommend, or it'll give you some recommendations about what to do. But I would recommend, if it's a very detailed image, to always do PNG. Now, you can do JPEG is like the standard one. Just make sure you put the quality up all the way. The advantage for JPEG is it's very small file, so it can hold well on your computer or your phone. But PNGs are usually much higher quality. And they allow that transparency too. So where you see that checker mark, like if you just do a JPEG, it'll just fill it in with white. But here, it would actually be transparent. More specifically, if I get rid of this square, if I were to save this, wherever I put this image, it's going to be like our Japanese flag behind it. If we see at this workshop, we can put it in front and you can see the Japanese flag behind it. This is what it means to be transparent. If this wasn't transparent, then this will be just blocked all out in white and we couldn't see your flag behind it. So if you have transparency at all in your image, you got to make sure you do a PNG. But I would only recommend JPEGs if you want to be mindful about if you have very limited storage. But regardless, you just click Save As. And I'll pull up wherever on the computer. Let's see. Let me go to my downloads. Oh, there's a lot of images of me. Can you even see this? No, it's not even letting you. But when you do save it, you'll see, unfortunately, you only have 3 free saves today. And this is one of the big downsides of Pixlr, which they didn't have like a year ago. You can only save the you can only save 3 images a day. So you'd be very mindful with that. Now, even though they tell you like you can make a free account, if you try to sign in, you still only have 3 though. I will though show you the premium, which is the paid versions. So you see here, there's 3 options if you do want to pay. If you really like Pixlr and you're like, I'm going to use this a lot, here are the options. The plus is you get rid of the ads, you have unlimited saves, and 80 monthly AI credits. This is what you're probably going to want. You're not going to need all this stuff. We'll probably do AI another day. But for now, if you are watching this in the future and you think you want to actually use Pixlr a lot, maybe think about doing 99 cents a month. That is something that would definitely be worth it if you're going to use it. That's a huge thing. There's this other stuff. What else are they offering? More AI credits, private mode, more fonts. Well, I guess you get access to those fonts we couldn't use. And the team is going to be useless. See, it's compared to Adobe, where you have to pay $50 a month for all their software, which mostly you're not going to use. You're only going to use like a couple of them. And the main ones can be Photoshop. That's pretty ridiculous to Pixlr, which has less tools, but they're almost at the same level with the tools that you're going to be using. Because I'm going to be thinking like Photoshop is so powerful. To the point where, especially if you're not a designer, it's not worth it. It's just too much, too confusing, and even slower. Like I find whenever I use Photoshop in the past, just creating a text, like if I go text here, add new, and I just type something random, like I just did that in a couple seconds. In Photoshop, for whatever reason, it could take you like a minute. So it's pretty ridiculous. So something you definitely want to consider doing. So like I said, in the future, we're going to do AI, the AI features. I haven't used it. We just did it a little bit with that little healing brush, which I thought it was pretty cool. So, that was a demo of Pixlr. I'm going to go through a lot of these because I want to figure out which one is really the best. So today's episode was more about just doing basic tutorials if you never used a software like this. But the future episodes will be much more review heavy, critique heavy. We'll be doing little projects. So I can test these out to make sure you guys have the best software in your tools. So I'll be back tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing GIMP, which is actually going to be a software. So I think that's all I got for you guys. So thank you for watching and take care, dudes.